My life, before all this, was a symphony of frustrated potential. Dominic Kane, a name synonymous in certain niche tech circles with brilliant but unfocused. I was a prodigy in advanced robotics and quantum programming, but my resume was a patchwork of failed startups and ethics clauses I almost violated. I lived in a cluttered downtown loft, the scent of cold coffee and soldering fumes a permanent fixture. My talent was undeniable, but my restlessness, my aversion to corporate straitjackets, meant I was perpetually on the fringe. I yearned for something truly impossible, something that would challenge every fiber of my intellect, something no one else dared touch. I just never imagined it would find me. It began with a subtle anomaly, an encrypted message, too complex for any known algorithm to generate, slipped through my fortress of firewalls like smoke. It was an invitation, cold and precise, from an entity simply identified as the Consortium. They offered a project of unprecedented national security, promising resources beyond my wildest dreams, and a challenge that would, in their words, redefine humanity's future. My first instinct was caution, then suspicion. Was it a trap? A prank? But the mathematical elegance of their encryption, the sheer audacity of their approach, whispered to the very core of my rebellious genius. The promise of unlimited access to unknown technologies, of unraveling secrets that defied current physics, was a siren song I couldn't resist. I knew, even as I typed my acceptance, that this was a path with no return, a one-way ticket to a destiny I couldn't yet fathom. The journey to what the Consortium simply called Site Zero was designed to be disorienting, a deliberate erasure of one's past life. It began with a blindfolded transfer from a private jet to a soundproofed, unmarked vehicle, then what felt like hours descending into the very belly of the Earth. The air grew colder, drier, tinged with the metallic scent of purified oxygen and something else, a faint, almost electrical tang. When the blindfold was finally removed, I stood in a vast subterranean hangar, colossal beyond anything I had ever seen. The sheer scale was breathtaking. Massive blast doors, silent automated gantries, and distant flickering work lights that disappeared into the oppressive darkness. It felt less like a research facility and more like an inverted skyscraper burrowing endlessly downwards. My first impression of Site Zero was one of chilling, almost alienating grandeur. The walls were reinforced concrete, seamlessly poured, punctuated by heavy, airtight bulkheads. Every corridor was sterile, impersonal, filled with the faint hum of unseen machinery. Security was omnipresent but unseen, a palpable pressure. I was introduced to my new colleagues, a small, hand-picked team of specialists. Dr. Aris Thorne, a theoretical physicist whose eyes held a disturbing gleam of fanaticism, and Major Anya Sharma, a stern, unsmiling security chief whose gaze felt like a physical probe. We were all brilliant, all driven, but also all prisoners of this singular, colossal secret. I was severed, utterly, from the world I knew. Site Zero was a universe unto itself, and its gravity was absolute.
My first days at Site Zero were a blur of briefings, security clearances, and mind-numbing orientation protocols. They tested my knowledge, my loyalty, my sanity. Then, on the fourth cycle, Dr. Thorne, His voice, unnervingly calm, led me deeper into the facility, through layers of reinforced doors, each requiring multiple biometric scans. The air grew colder, charged with a strange electrical hum that vibrated in my teeth. We entered a colossal, cavernous chamber, dimly lit by a suspended array of soft, pulsing purple lights. And there it was. It wasn't a flying saucer. It wasn't a crashed alien vessel. It was something far more profound, far more unsettling. A monolithic, obsidian-black obelisk, perfectly smooth, approximately 30 feet tall, tapering slightly towards a razor-sharp point. It hovered effortlessly in the very center of the chamber, 3 feet off the ground, held in place by invisible forces. Its surface seemed to absorb all light, yet simultaneously emitted a faint internal shimmer of deep violet, hinting at intricate patterns just beneath the surface. It looked utterly inert, yet hummed with a barely perceptible energy that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. This was the artifact. Dr. Thorne explained it had been recovered decades ago from an anomalous impact site in a remote Arctic region, perfectly preserved. All attempts at analysis, penetration, or even basic interaction had failed. It was impervious to all known forces, but it was also radiating subtle, organized energy. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with a surge of scientific ecstasy, a profound sense of encountering the truly alien. This wasn't just a rock, it was a cosmic riddle waiting to be solved, and I was here to solve it. My role, as defined by Dr. Thorne and approved by the shadowy consortium, was to find a back door, a point of entry, a fundamental logic that would allow us to interface with the obelisk. Traditional methods, from brute force energy pulses to advanced material analysis, had all failed. My specialty lay in pattern recognition, in the subtle nuances of complex systems that defied conventional logic. I was given unprecedented access. Arrays of advanced quantum computers, neural networks, and bespoke analytical tools. The task was daunting. The obelisk remained inert, a silent, inscrutable giant. I spent days, then weeks, analyzing the faint energy fluctuations it emitted, searching for a rhythm, a mathematical anomaly, anything that wasn't random noise. Thorne insisted on a human element, a direct, intuitive approach rather than pure algorithmic brute force. The challenge wasn't just technical, it was philosophical. This wasn't human code. It wasn't even life as we understood it. It was alien, utterly. My colleagues, a blend of frustrated brilliance, offered theories ranging from gravitational manipulation to a complex, non-carbon-based biology. Major Sharma's security teams constantly monitored every byte of data, every twitch of my hand, their presence a suffocating reminder of the stakes. The tension in the lab was palpable, a crucible of genius and frustration. There were heated arguments, intellectual clashes, and the constant unspoken pressure of the consortium's expectations. I felt like a cosmic archaeologist, sifting through the dust of a billion-year-old language, praying for a single recognizable glyph.
After what felt like an eternity of dead ends, of algorithms crumbling against alien logic, I stumbled upon it. Not a code, but a resonance pattern. By feeding highly specific, non-linear energy frequencies into the obelisk, matching the subtle vibrations I'd been detecting for weeks, the artifact responded. It wasn't a conventional response. The faint, deep violet shimmer intensified, pulsating with a deliberate rhythm, and a low, ethereal hum filled the chamber, vibrating not just through the air, but through my very bones. Then the visions started. Fleeting kaleidoscopic images flickered at the edge of my perception, not in my eyes, but in my mind. Swirling nebulae, alien landscapes, impossible geometries, and then faces. Not human, not alien as I understood them, but fleeting forms, imbued with immense ancient wisdom. It was as if the obelisk was trying to communicate, to share its vast, incomprehensible history. My colleagues were oblivious, focused on the external readings of the energy exchange. Only I, the direct conduit, felt the mental invasion. I started experiencing strange, vivid dreams, fragments of alien star charts, whispers of impossible physics. My physical health began to suffer, persistent headaches, dizzy spells, a feeling of constant mental fatigue. But I couldn't stop. The artifact was calling to me, revealing pieces of a cosmic puzzle that no human had ever even conceived. I was becoming increasingly obsessed, neglecting sleep, food, and sanity, driven by an insatiable hunger for the knowledge it offered. Dr. Thorne, noticing my deteriorating state, urged caution, but his eyes held an undeniable gleam of triumph. He saw progress. I felt a transformation, a frightening synergy.
My growing, unsettling connection with the obelisk did not go unnoticed. High-ranking consortium officials, shadowy figures I'd only heard whispered about, began to arrive at Site Zero. They were men and women in tailored suits, their faces devoid of emotion, their presence radiating an almost inhuman authority. Their arrival brought with it a chilling new directive, Protocol Delta. No more caution, no more slow, methodical research. They demanded acceleration. They wanted results now. Their rhetoric was filled with national security, geopolitical advantage, and the next step for humanity. Words that felt hollow, almost profane in the face of the artifact it was whispering to me. The pressure on the entire scientific team became unbearable. Dr. Thorne, once a beacon of intellectual curiosity, transformed into a relentless taskmaster, driven by the consortium's demands. Ethical debates, once whispered in break rooms, were now silenced with a stern glance, or, more disturbingly, with the sudden and inexplicable reassignment of dissenting colleagues. I saw Dr. Evelyn Hayes, a brilliant linguist who questioned the artifact's benign nature, escorted away by Major Sharma's security detail, her pleas for caution fading into the sterile corridors. Site Zero became a fortress, not just against external threats, but against its own inhabitants. Security patrols increased, biometric checks became even more stringent, and the surveillance cameras seemed to follow my every move with an almost sentient gaze. I was a crucial asset, but also a potential liability. The dream of unlocking alien technology had become a cold, hard, dangerous reality, controlled by unseen masters who cared only for power, not for understanding. I felt like a pawn in a game I was only just beginning to comprehend. A game's rules were being dictated by an alien entity and played by ruthless humans. The relentless pressure, the pervasive hum, the whispers from the artifact, they pushed me to the brink. But in that chaotic crucible of sleep deprivation and burgeoning paranoia, I found it. Not in a logical sequence of code, but in a sudden, almost ecstatic flash of intuition. I stopped trying to control the obelisk and started trying to listen to it, to harmonize with its unique energetic signature. By subtly adjusting the bioresonance emitters to match the complex shifting frequencies I was now directly perceiving, the artifact responded in a way that shattered every previous barrier. A surge of pure, raw energy coursed through me, a sensation akin to my very atoms vibrating in unison with the universe. The chamber filled with a blinding internal azure light that emanated from the obelisk, pulsating in sync with my own accelerated heartbeat. In that moment, the interface wasn't just mental, it was physical, a terrifying, exhilarating fusion. My hands, resting lightly on the control panel, seemed to glow with the same light, my thoughts no longer confined to my skull. I was connected, truly connected. Suddenly, I was privy to an influx of impossible knowledge. Not just data, but raw, unfiltered concepts. Visions of galaxies being born and dying, of civilizations rising and falling across billions of years, of the true interwoven nature of space-time. I understood in a flash of terrifying clarity how the obelisk worked, its purpose, its vast, ancient capabilities. And with that understanding came abilities. Subtle at first, then shockingly tangible. I could manipulate localized energy fields, cause faint objects to levitate, even subtly distort light. It was exhilarating, a power beyond dreams. But the price was immediate and devastating. The immense data stream, the sheer cognitive load began to take a toll. My head throbbed with a pain that threatened to split it open. My body felt as if it were being subtly rewired, constantly buzzing with alien energy. Dr. Chin Wei, monitoring my vitals remotely, screamed warnings over the comms about neural overload, about cellular degradation. I ignored her. My skin felt unnaturally cold. My eyes, I knew, were glowing faintly with the obelisk's light. The whispers in my mind were no longer just whispers. They were a cacophony of alien voices, ancient truths, and a terrifying, resonant song that pulled me deeper into its influence. I was making a breakthrough, yes, but I was also transforming, becoming less human, more a conduit for something vast and ancient. The synergy was complete, and the peril was just beginning. The breakthrough was undeniably magnificent, but it was also the beginning of the end of any semblance of human control. The energy surges, once localized to my console, now emanated directly from the obelisk, uncontrollable, erratic, and violently disruptive. It wasn't just my direct interaction now. The artifact was activating on its own terms, responding to unseen internal directives. The very air in the chamber crackled with raw, unstable power. Lights flickered wildly, then exploded. Consoles sparked and melted, their sophisticated circuitry overwhelmed by forces they weren't designed to contain. The initial awe among the other scientists quickly turned to terror. Dr. Thorne, who had pushed for this very outcome, was suddenly frantic, shouting orders for containment, for a shutdown that was now impossible. Major Sharma, her usual cold composure shattered, had her security team's attempts to isolate the chamber. But reinforced blast doors buckled under unseen pressures, groaning and distorting. The hum, which had once been a resonant whisper, became a deafening, oscillating roar that threatened to rupture eardrums and shatter sanity. I understood, in that terrifying moment of ultimate clarity,
that the obelisk was not merely a tool, it was a living entity, or perhaps more accurately, a dormant component of a vast, ancient intergalactic system that had just been forcibly awakened. My connection, my synergy, had been the key, but now I was merely a tether, unable to stop its awakening. The visions in my mind intensified, not just knowledge now, but commands, directives, abstract, alien, yet undeniably purposeful. It began manipulating the very fabric of reality around us. Minor gravity fluctuations that made footsteps impossible, localized temporal distortions that caused equipment to age and decay in seconds, subtle shifts in light that created blinding mirages. Major Sharma and the consortium officials who had arrived earlier were furious. They saw a weapon, a prize slipping through their fingers. They saw me, Dominic Kane, as a rogue element, a failed experiment. Orders blared: contain him, shut it down, use lethal force if necessary. They were desperate to regain control of a power they neither understood nor deserved. I was no longer an asset. I was a threat, not because of what I was doing, but because of what the artifact was doing through me. The illusion of control, the promise of power had vanished. All that remained was raw, untamed alien force unleashed by human hubris.
The chaos was absolute, a maelstrom of raw, unfettered alien energy. The obelisk, now a roaring vortex of light and sound, was tearing Site Zero apart, and the consortium's desperate attempts to seize control were only fueling its destructive awakening. In the heart of that maelstrom, I saw with horrifying clarity not just the power, but the purpose of the artifact. It wasn't a weapon for them to wield, it was a cosmic key, or perhaps a cosmic judge, reacting violently to its forced subjugation. The alien voices in my mind screamed not of conquest, but of violation, of ancient protocols breached. I knew then, with every fiber of my being, what I had to do. I was the key to its awakening, and I had to be the key to stopping it, or at least preventing them from turning it into a catastrophe. My newly acquired abilities, once terrifying, now felt like a desperate, impossible extension of myself. I focused, pushing through the agonizing pain and mental static, trying to shape the raw energy emanating from the obelisk, not to destroy, but to control its immediate effects, to create a path. My decision was a declaration of war. Major Sharma, leading a squad of heavily armed security forces, ordered lethal force. Kane is compromised. Neutralize him. Her face was a mask of cold fury, utterly devoid of the humanity I once thought I'd glimpsed. Dr. Thorne, too, betrayed his true colors, his earlier scientific curiosity replaced by a desperate, fanatical drive to contain and exploit the power. Don't destroy it, immobilize him. We need that data. The facility became a battleground. I moved, not just with my body, but with the surges of energy the obelisk resonated through me. I redirected plasma blasts, distorted the aiming systems of their automatic turrets, and caused temporary localized gravity shifts that threw elite soldiers off balance. It was a desperate dance, a struggle against overwhelming numbers and superior firepower, fueled by the terrifying knowledge now coursing through my veins. The question wasn't just about survival, it was about the fate of the planet. Perhaps even the species, if this unleashed cosmic force fell into the wrong hands. My former colleague, a brilliant but timid xenolinguist named Dr. Lena Petrova, whom I had sometimes shared late-night theories with, surprisingly joined my side. Her eyes wide with terror, she saw the truth. "Dom, what can I do?" she screamed over the alarms. A flicker of hope.
I wasn't entirely alone.
Lena and I fought our way through the collapsing levels of Site Zero, the obelisk's uncontrolled energy tearing apart bulkheads and twisting metal corridors into grotesque sculptures. Her knowledge of the facility's layout proved invaluable, guiding us through hidden maintenance tunnels and abandoned research labs. As we descended deeper, drawn by the obelisk's pulsating core, the nature of its power became horrifyingly clear. The visions intensified, no longer just glimpses of cosmic history, but a direct, urgent warning. The obelisk wasn't a key, it was a beacon, a dormant signal that our reckless activation had just amplified across the vast emptiness of space. The beings who created it, the fleeting faces I had seen, were ancient, powerful, and utterly indifferent to humanity. The obelisk wasn't meant to be understood, but to be triggered, a homing signal for a force beyond our comprehension. The consortium, in their blind pursuit of power, had not just stumbled upon alien technology, they had essentially rung a cosmic doorbell, and something colossal was about to answer. We finally reached the chamber at the lowest level, the true heart of Site Zero. The obelisk here was even more immense, a towering spire of obsidian that pulsed with raw, almost sentient energy. Holographic projections flickered around it, finally coalescing into fragmented images of colossal Dyson sphere-like structures orbiting distant stars and of immense biomechanical entities traversing the void between galaxies. The truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. We weren't on the verge of a technological leap. We were about to become collateral damage in a cosmic drama millennia in the making. Thorn and Sharma, or what remained of their forces, cornered us in the central chamber. Thorn, his face contorted in a manic grin, still clung to the belief that he could control the power. Sharman remained stubbornly loyal to the consortium's agenda. "Kane," she snarled, her weapon trained on me, "you've doomed us all. Stand down." But I knew the only way to avert disaster, to silence the beacon, was a desperate, terrifying gambit, one that would demand the last vestiges of my humanity and the full, volatile power now surging within me. The truth was unveiled, and it was far more terrifying than any of us could have imagined. The weight of the cosmos pressed down on me. The fate of Earth, perhaps more, rested on a choice I never could have imagined making. Thorn, in his madness, lunged for the obelisk, convinced he could harness its energy, a pathetic, insignificant figure reaching for the heart of a star. A raw surge of power erupted from the spire, vaporizing him in an instant, leaving only a faint scorch mark on the polished obsidian. Sharma hesitated, her training warring with the sheer terror in her eyes. "It's not a weapon," I told her, my voice resonating with the alien energy, a voice no longer entirely my own. "It's a signal, and it needs to be silenced. The only way," the horrifying truth whispered by the dying echoes in my mind, "was to disrupt the obelisk's connection, to sever the signal at its source. And that source was now intertwined with me, the direct neural link, the physical integration. It was a bridge I had unwittingly built. With a surge of will, fueled by a desperate hope for a future I might never see, I channeled the alien energy within me, focusing it back into the obelisk. It was agony, my very being tearing apart as I forced my consciousness, my life force, into the alien construct. The spire pulsed violently,
the holographic projections flickering and distorting as the signal fought to maintain its connection. The chamber filled with a deafening shriek, a cosmic cry of outrage and severance. Then, silence. The azure light faded, the humming stopped. The obelisk became inert once more, a cold, black monolith. I collapsed, my body racked with pain, the alien energy receding, leaving behind a profound emptiness. Lena rushed to my side, her face etched with fear and relief. Sharma, stunned by the sudden cessation of power, lowered her weapon, her face a mask of disbelief. The immediate threat was over. The beacon was silent, but the aftermath was a void. Site Zero was in ruins, many lives lost. The consortium's dreams of wielding alien power had dissolved into dust, and I was changed. The connection, even severed, had left its mark. I could still feel faint echoes, phantom whispers at the edge of my senses, a lingering awareness of the vast, indifferent universe beyond. If I survived this, could I ever truly return to a normal life? And what would humanity face now, knowing what lay beyond the veil? The silence of the obelisk was a reprieve, but it also felt like the quiet before a storm.
The aftermath was a blur of medical evaluations, debriefings that felt more like interrogations, and the stark, chilling silence of Site Zero. Lena, miraculously, managed to evade serious charges, her testimony painting me as a desperate hero who averted a global catastrophe. Major Sharma, her authority fractured by the incident, reluctantly confirmed the raw data, though her eyes still held a lingering suspicion that I knew more, was more, than I let on. The consortium, reeling from the destruction and the unimaginable scale of the threat, quietly classified everything. The official story, a catastrophic energy core malfunction. The obelisk was sealed, buried, erased from all records, its existence a phantom whispered only in the darkest corridors of power. I survived. Physically, mostly, but the Dominic Kane who walked out of Site Zero was not the same man who walked in. The alien energy, the direct link to the obelisk's consciousness, had left an indelible mark. My senses were heightened, sometimes agonizingly so. I could perceive subtle energy fluctuations in the world around me, hear a faint, almost imperceptible hum in the silence of the night, a resonance with the vast interconnected cosmic tapestry. The visions, though no longer overwhelming, would sometimes flicker at the edge of my mind, glimpses of alien constellations, echoes of ancient cosmic pathways, and the chilling understanding of humanity's true insignificant place in a truly living universe. I vanished from the consortium's radar, a ghost in the system, living under a new identity, far from the whispers of power and the shadows of Site Zero. I became a solitary observer, haunted by the knowledge I carried, a truth too vast, too terrifying, too liberating for humanity to comprehend. I sought solace in the quiet solitude, finding comfort only in the vast, star-filled night sky, which I now saw with different eyes. It was no longer just a collection of distant lights. It was a living, breathing entity, full of secrets, some of which I now understood. But the question always lingered. Was the beacon truly silenced, or merely dormant? Was the obelisk a singular entity, or just one piece of a colossal intergalactic network? And what would happen when, or if its true creators finally decided to investigate the signal. I had averted one disaster, perhaps, but the universe was vast and full of impossibilities. My life had become a perpetual vigil, a quiet watch against the unseen, a lone sentinel carrying the burden of cosmic truth. The fight for control over alien technology was over, but the silent, terrifying war for knowledge, and perhaps for humanity's future, had only just begun.